Hi guys, it's Tony Robbins. You're listening to Habits and Hustle. Crush it.
Today on the podcast, we have my friend Ebenezer Samuel, who is also the fitness director for Men's Health, the largest men's media brand in the world. And he's a personal trainer to a wide range of clients, including NFL players to working moms. He's the head of training innovation for a fitness platform called FlexIt. And what I love about Ebenezer, his approach really blends everything from bodybuilding, speed training, calisthenics, helping your body move better and building muscle, while also avoiding boredom and long-term injuries. He is literally certified in almost every fitness modality. And so when I say this guy is knowledgeable in fitness, I mean, this guy is knowledgeable in fitness. He's also starred in numerous shows, including Men's Health New Rules of Muscle and The Next Top Trainer. In this episode, you guys, because it's still January, we really wanted to uncover some of your biggest questions and answer them, really to help maybe elevate your wherever you are in fitness, or kind of talk about some of the myths out there so you can kind of go out there and reach your goals better. We go over how to really build muscle, how to really lose fat. Is the workout plan you're doing even working for you? Because it's so different for everybody. We go over some of the most overrated exercises and some of the most underrated exercises, and so much more. We talk about like the main questions and queries that people are usually asking for. So I hope this episode really does help answer some of those questions for you, and much more. Enjoy. All right. So today on the podcast, we have the one and only Ebenezer Samuel, otherwise known as Eb. Eb and I are actually quite good friends, so I'm super happy to have him on the podcast. Super happy to have you here on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And we are on location. We're at the Carillon Wellness Resort in Miami. Both of us are doing some work here, and so we figured why not take advantage of this beautiful location and do this podcast just in time for 2022, the new year. We thought it would be a really good chance to talk about goal setting and all those fitness and things that people are constantly fitness resolutions that they put on for like 2022. And there's no one better to do it with than Ebenezer, otherwise known as Eb, because he is the fitness director for Men's Health, and probably one of the most not just educated, but really in the space, but someone that practices what he preaches and truly constantly just ups his knowledge in this space. And there's no one more dedicated than you. So this is a really good person to be doing this with. So thank you for coming on.
No problem. I'm very, very excited and a little bit nervous to be on here.
What are you nervous for?
I'm not really sure because you're an intimidating podcast host.
Oh my God. I think he's kind of kidding, but this is what I love about you, is that you're so like humbled and so like kind of like soft spoken, but you're like a beast when it comes to like anything in the health and fitness space. And I know you're probably really not. If you're nervous, it's more because we have like 3 cameras staring at you, and you're usually behind the scenes, kind of so to speak, doing a lot of the editorial, putting together all the workouts. But like at the same time, and you're not doing a push-up or a lunge, because that's what you're most comfortable with, we know.
Yeah, push-ups.
Push-ups,
bench press. Yeah.
But anything that's movement or action oriented. So why don't we just go, I'm going to jump in, because I think that let's go through one of the biggies, right? Which is goal setting.
Yeah. Right.
Everybody for 2022 or any year, when they make these like New Year's resolutions, they always want to, say, oh, this year I'm going to lose 10 pounds, or I'm going to work out more, I'm going to eat better. And then by like month 3, those all dissipate, and then you go right back to what you normally do. So why don't we start with that? And this is something I'm sure you guys cover a lot with Men's Health, but what's the best approach when and for people for goal setting?
I think there are two kind of prevailing approaches now that both work. I think one is you kind of let somebody else set the goal, which I think we're seeing more people do now, and that's you do that because you decide that you're going to do like a Tough Mudder race, or you're gonna do like a high rocks competition. You're going to do something where you suddenly have to perform for it, right? And because you have this deadline and you have this concrete event happening, that sets the goal for you, and then you have to pursue it, right? And I think that's one way to do it. And what works about that is it's concrete, right? I have to compete in this Tough Mudder. I know it's going to be 3 miles. It incorporates these events, so I have to train for them. And so that's going to help get me where I need to get, right?
And it also helps with accountability too, right? Because you're putting it out there that you're going to be doing this 5K or this Tough Mudder or whatever, the Spartan race, whatever it is. And then not only you working towards that goal, but it's out there that you kind of want to do well by it, like, right? So that's a good idea. So then a really good way to goal set for people is put something on the calendar that you're working towards. So like, what if someone can't do something like a Tough Mudder? Give other options. Like throughout your career, I'm sure you've had to like create, or like you probably know of lots of different things that people could put on their calendar or work towards as something. So give us a bunch of different examples.
Yeah, I mean, it can be pretty simple, right? Like, again, Tough Mudder is great, Spartan races are great, but it can be something a lot on a local level. You know, a lot of cities, a lot of towns have like 5Ks, you know, sign up for kind of a local 5K. A lot of people like to try to prep for marathons. That's insane to me and not something I would ever...
What's your take on marathons?
It's interesting. I have a very complicated take on it. I think anytime you're doing anything physical for yourself and you're putting that challenge in front of yourself, it's never a bad thing, right? I don't know that a marathon is a great way to kind of long-term goal set for your fitness, because one, I just think the way people tend to train for marathons is a lot of running, and it's a lot of that same pattern over and over and over. And our body kind of moves in 3 planes, not just one. Like, we're meant to move forward in front of us, we're meant to rotate, and we're also meant to kind of move laterally. And you tend to abandon those other pieces when you train for a marathon. And it's great that you train for the marathon. You burn a ton of calories, you wind up really improving your aerobic fitness. But I just think you miss too many other things. So I'm like, is that really like the long-term goal you want? And it's going to pound your knees too. So I
also feel like that's where I gain all my injuries from, right? Is from running. And I don't believe in marathons myself because of the same reasons actually that you said. Also because I feel like you're breaking down so much like lean muscle by doing something so much like that pounding. And as you age, it's really hard for your joints and for your knees and for your ankles. So I love running, don't get me wrong. And because I love it that much, I choose not to do the marathons, because I want to be running for many, many years to come, not just short term for something like a marathon and then have all these crazy injuries. And like I said, I know from just like, I have ankle issues, I have knee issues already. And that's from just running 4 times a week for 45 minutes. So like compound that with so much more, I'm going to be like a total disaster, right?
I think too, it's how some people train for the marathon too, right? Because the way most people train for a marathon is they gradually pile on like miles. It's like you just run, right?
Right.
Elite marathoners are able to stay healthier because they're running a couple of days a week, but they're also kind of hitting the weight room to kind of work on stability at their hip, at their ankle, at their knee, and kind of through their core. That way their stride improves, right? If you go out there with a bad stride and you have to repeat that for how many thousand steps over the course of your marathon and your marathon training, you're compounding whatever injuries you have. But if you were to kind of, I think what I'd love to see just on kind of a national level is the conversation around marathon running and kind of long distance running season change for average people who just go out and compete and run it for fun, right? That the conversation change and it start to shift to more of, hey, let's run 2 to 3 days a week. Let's not pile up insane mileage. But let's not make that just the only thing we're doing fitness wise, but let's also support that with, some sessions in the weight room, because those weight room sessions are what insulate elite runners from getting hurt when they go out to run.
Like you were saying, like if people were training properly, like they would be incorporating the stability, because that's a big one, and also to the gait or the how you're moving. If you're moving badly or incorrectly and you're doing it over and over and over again, that's also much more about, that's how you get injured and injured quicker. And I think that's a really good point. The other thing I find, I was going to ask you just about the marathons because we're on there. I heard a myth, this could be a myth, that some people's body types are much more inclined for running or for doing this. Because I do have friends, I've got a few, 2 or 3 friends who are really lean, lanky, tall, who are ultra marathoners, right? And they never get injured. But that's like the anomaly. Yeah. Right? Is there something to be said for body type and the way you work out?
Yeah. So it's interesting. One of the more fun stories we did in Men's Health last year, and this was a project that me and the editor-in-chief were super excited about, was actually all about lever length, right? Which is basically the length of my arms, the length of my legs, particularly like my thighs compared to like my calves.
Right.
And the relationship when you have different lengths of limbs, it instantly lends to certain exercises, to certain sports more, right? Because if you are that long limb person, if you think about it, so I'm 5'9.5", and I try to tell people I'm 5'10".
Here we go again. Yes.
But how tall are you?
5'6".
So if you and me both go out to run a mile, right? Just because my legs are longer than yours, right? I need fewer strides to cover that. So all your very long-legged friends, right? When they go out to run their ultras, they can cover that distance in much fewer strides, which means less chance of injury and more. But it goes the same if we go into the weight room, which is where we'll wind up at some point during this trip.
Yes. Today, actually.
Yeah. Like if you ever look at like the bench press champions, like the very best bench pressers in the world, 9 times out of 10, they have very, very short arms, right? And the reason is because, the shorter your arms, the easier it is to press up, right?
That's so true. I never even thought of that.
Yeah, I'm not good at the deadlift, right? And the reason I'm not a great deadlifter is because my legs are very long relative to my torso. So I have to work harder at the deadlift. So when we did the story last year, one of the things we really explored was, one of the myths of the gym is this idea that you have to do the conventional deadlift. You have to be able to do a pull-up. You have to do certain exercises with the barbell, right? That's what they claim. And what we kind of tried to show within the story is that's not true, because for me, the conventional deadlift isn't a great lift. So I do a lot more trap bar deadlifts, and I still get what I need out of them.
That is such a good piece of information, because you know why? There's a couple different exercises for me that just biomechanically are just terrible for me. The exercise where I just seem not to be, my body doesn't really do well with is when you do the squat with the bar in front of me.
Yeah.
My body becomes very awkward and I beat myself up. I'm like, how can I not do this? This is like 101 for people who are into very into the fitness world. So there is something biomechanically, there is something about that. But I'm 5'6", and why would that front bar be bad for me? So
the front squat is an incredibly challenging lift anyway. Like for a lot of people, most of the time that's not a lever issue. That's almost
a lat.
Yeah, exactly. It's lat tightness. It's also not for nothing, but I have like big biceps, right? I like to think I do. But so
you do.
So I can't necessarily turn my arm. So I have trouble with the lift too, right? So it's kind of a wrist mobility, elbow thing, and then it's a lat thing, right? But then
that's true, yeah.
The thing again, you kind of look at, well, why is I've been asking myself a lot the question, probably over the last like year and a half, about why is this so important, right? And what's the goal of the lift, right? And if the goal of if there's an easier way, and this is what the guys who train like pro athletes do so well, right? And it's what I think about when I'm working with like Terrell Owens or like an Antonio Brown. It's kind of like, what's the
name dropper? No, I'm joking.
what's the yes, I can, and I learned this a lot too, because I covered the NFL before I was at Men's Health, and I would go into NFL locker rooms, and NFL players very rarely do power cleans. Okay. The power clean is a really good exercise that helps you get more explosive, but it's a really hard exercise to teach. So the NFL trainer just wants his players 9 times out of 10 to get more explosive. He doesn't care how you do it.
How you do it, right?
Yeah. So this is actually a tip I got from Patrick Mahomes' trainer, right? All he has his guys do is take a medicine ball and throw it really high up in the air. That's it. And if you, it wasn't Patrick Mahomes' trainer, it was James Harden's trainer, right? Mm-hmm. All you do is you take a medicine ball, and you should do this every day, and everybody can do this, and you just throw it up really high in the air, as high as you possibly can, 5 times, okay? And it's actually hitting the exact same muscles as a power clean, right? At the exact same speed, except it's a lot easier, right? So I started doing that, and I have a lot of the people I work with do that, right?
And that's a really good explosive movement, and you get the same benefits of doing a power clean.
Exactly, from an athletic standpoint.
Yeah,
exactly. You don't, but it's a lot easier to teach. Throw a ball up really high, as hard as you possibly can. It's a lot easier to teach than a power clean.
Okay, that's a really good piece of information. Just tell everyone though, what's the benefit of doing explosive movements? So like take it to the 101, fitness 101 for people who are not like experts like you are.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Explosive movements are really, I feel like we've gotten to a point as a society where we realize we need to build muscle, right? And we've kind of heard that. And still there are times where we don't do that. But we build muscle and we do it with kind of these slow reps, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the things we kind of lose is as like your body is kind of meant to be explosive. And that explosiveness that is the speed to kind of do things really quick, right? That's really what it is. It's this ability for me to like, I can punch my hands out slowly, right? Or I can punch them out really fast, okay? And I can do the same thing with my legs. I can just put my foot on the ground, or I can stomp it into the ground, right? It's really important, especially as we age, we lose that ability to be explosive. So we want to preserve as much of it as we can, because that ability for me to, if I'm standing up right now, if I'm going for a walk and you push me, right? And I need to all of a sudden catch my balance, right? It's that ability to move explosively, right? That
or quick enough, right?
Exactly. That's what allows me to decelerate so that I'm not going to fall and hurt myself. So at a base level, that's really important. There's a lot of research now that says we can get stronger into our 50s and 60s, right? We can continue to build just strength, like the ability to lift more weight, right? But that ability to lift that weight fast and for me to reach out and grab this super quickly, that's what diminishes earlier as we age. And that's why it's so important for us to try to preserve that as much as we can.
That's a really good point. So, as we age, a lot of times people say or think, if I keep my body moving, I'll go for long walks, brisk walks, do some cardio. And yes, now you're right. People are knowing that they have to do some resistance training for their bones and to building muscle mass. But I think the explosive movements are not very well known, because people do. I think the belief is that for explosive moves, that's for someone who's young. When I was young, I could do that. But you're actually saying that it's super important as we age, because that kind of helps you with the ability to move quickly so you don't get injured. Like, right? Like you can it's good for your reflexes too, basically.
Exactly.
It helps your reflexes.
Yeah, exactly. Reflexive stuff has to happen very quickly. And, and you're kind of training that response when you take the time to kind of train explosive ideas. The other thing is kind of like, it's like we talk about in fitness a lot, this idea of like having like a movement library, right? Like the things you do every day, you get really comfortable doing, you know?
Totally.
And the things you don't, especially as we age, and I notice it even like for myself, the exercises I haven't done in 6 months, right? It's like start to get hard when I go out to do them. It's like, wow, this takes work, or this doesn't feel as comfortable as I want it to feel. And some of that is because suddenly I'm not explosive in that direction, right? Because I haven't done it, so I don't have that comfort level, so I'm suddenly tentative. So when you kind of train, when you train that explosiveness, it helps when you try to train that in as many directions as possible. It helps to just preserve your ability to like play with your kids and do things again that you're not doing as frequently as you want to, but you still want to kind of preserve that.
That's a great point. How about for people like you're saying something about like doing the same things over and over again, which we all become victim of. Like, I mean, I do that. You and I talk about this all the time. Because when you get super busy, you go on autopilot mode, or just like, all right, I'll go on the treadmill for this amount of time. I'll do the same exercises I know, that are just kind of part of my daily regimen. What happens when that happens? Like, do you actually get? Obviously, you get decreased effects, but why is that bad? If you're still doing it over and over again, you're still burning the calories, you're still moving every day. Can you talk about the whole plateau? Like, why we plateau? How do we stop plateauing so we can actually see results and get to the place we want to be? And how do we trick our brains out of like constantly going back into that autopilot? Yeah,
it's hard because you get into a fitness comfort zone, and I kind of do it. I think everybody does it because especially the older you get and the longer you're in the gym, the more you get comfortable with certain exercises, right? I think plateaus are interesting because it's interesting because you go back to what we talked about goals, right? And I think you also plateau if you don't have like a strong goal, right? Because then you don't really know. It's like when you hop on the rower or the treadmill or anything, right? You don't really know why you're doing it, And so it's like really easy for it to you to kind of.
Well, I know why we're doing it because we're trying to work out, but it becomes very second nature where then you're not getting the results, and your body, I feel, becomes so proficient, so it's not even like working anymore.
I think it helps to, I think especially on the cardio equipment, right? It helps to, and this kind of goes back to what we were saying about explosiveness, and this is actually a debate I've been having with a friend of mine. Michael Easter wrote the Comfort Crisis. I don't know if you've heard about it,
but I should read it.
It's an interesting book, but he and I have this debate. It's a long-running debate that we conduct over text message, and he's probably texting me about it right now. About he's very much a proponent of longer distances and kind of like slow, like steady state running and stuff like that. I'm very much a proponent of like a little bit more interval training.
Yeah. Well, hasn't it been proven that HIIT training is the best way to kind of constantly for fat loss and for seeing any kind of real result? And
and it's because it checks multiple boxes, right? Because HIIT training works and it's funny because I'm definitely not like a CrossFit person, right? I have a lot of issues with that style, but at the same time, like it checks a lot of like when you're HIIT training, your heart rate never fully comes down, even though it's kind of an interval, right? And because of that, there's a really strong like cardiovascular aerobic benefit to it, right? But at the same time, especially if you're playing with kind of short enough intervals, like I think one of the issues with HIIT as conceived in group fitness classes is they tend to have people not rest enough, right? But if you're resting, if you're doing, say, 30 seconds on, 30 off of something, or even 40 seconds on, 20 off, that's probably where I would top out in HIIT. Your body gets a chance to be explosive. Like you can push hard on those 40 second bursts, right? So you get to capture that explosive component, you get the aerobic component, and any kind of explosive motion you're doing, and that's the really, really underrated thing about that thing I mentioned earlier, where we're literally just throwing a medicine ball up, doing it really fast, right? All of that, like, without getting too physicsy, force is mass times acceleration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can do two things. I can get down on the ground for a push up, right? And I can do it slowly. I'm creating like a certain amount of force, right? Or I can explode out of it, right? And I can explode with a lighter weight and still build muscle and be getting explosive and still build strength, and I'm still getting that explosive component. And that's what we can do with HIIT when you get on the rower and you go really, really hard for 20 seconds and then you rest for 40 seconds.
And so that's the best way for fat loss.
Yeah, I think if you put a gun to my head, I would tell you that was the best way for fat loss. Yeah.
But if you can you plateau with HIIT? Like if I'm doing HIIT 5 days a week, is that too much HIIT?
So that's the thing. Yeah, so that's the thing. The recovery from HIIT workouts, if done correctly, right, is and that's where people mess up, because they'll think, okay, I can make HIIT better. I can make my HIIT workout better by trying to do more work and rest less, right? But if you do more work, if you go for like 50 seconds on and you take like 10 seconds off every minute, right? It's
not HIIT anymore, basically.
Yeah, then it's literally just like aerobics or something like that.
Or at a very high rate. And then your body can probably produce too much cortisol or... Yeah,
it's a combination. Well, it's basically your body's ATP stores can't recover fast enough for you to utilize them. So you just start slowing down, right? And you lose the explosive component, and you also lose the ability, your heart rate, just the graph of HIIT should look something like up and then kind of down, up and then kind of down, because you have like a little bit of recovery in that. When you start to get into the HIIT, again, in group fitness, or when people try to do more, the graph starts to just flatline, right? And then I have a one really good friend, and she would do, and I was trying to help her with this, and so she would send me like her graph off of Whoop, right? And I would look at it, and it was like 110 the entire way across, right? And we want you can get that heart rate up higher.
You want those peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
But you're saying about your friend. Okay, so you're saying if a gun was to work at your head, HIIT training is the best way to not plateau, and to get the most gains from fat loss. But there's a big but if you do it properly, right? And you can't do it every day.
Yeah, exactly.
You need that time to recover.
Yeah, if you're training your HIIT hard and correctly, I would max it out at 2 days a week, maybe 3. Really 2.
That's okay. And then you were saying something about your friend that you're constantly in a text, fest with.
Yeah, sorry.
The comfort guy. So what is does he believe that you should be doing steady state as the best way for fat loss or for not plateauing, or what did he say?
He thinks he's nuts. But he thinks his take is that you should be doing steady state is just kind of I guess our discussion is what's the best fitness you should do, not necessarily for fat loss. And his take is that steady state is kind of like the forgotten piece of fitness, and he's like guys like Eb don't want to do it because they have too much muscle and it's too much work,
Really? So what does he think? And when you say steady state, like what else does he think? Steady state for how long? What's the duration? How often? Yeah,
that's where he and I go back and forth a little bit. Because so in the grand scheme, just to kind of backtrack real quick, I think in the grand scheme, what I want more people to do and what we really need to do is kind of blend the two approaches, right? I think like if you're working for a specific goal, even if it's like a marathon, right? It's still better to have a blend of approaches in there, right? So in the grand scheme, I would love to see people do HIIT twice a week, right? And then maybe you have like those longer cardio pieces that are a little bit slower, where it's just like, say, a 20-minute run or a 3-mile run or something like that. You can put those in on the days when you're not training HIIT, right? And take it a little bit easier and go out there.
You know what's interesting about you? I find so what's your take on cardio? So I would think, if I didn't know you, which I know you, of course, that you would be all about strength training, resistance training, because most people who are like at your at level and doing what you're doing they think cardio is just like a total waste of time. And you're storing a bunch of, fat because of it. It's putting your body into, all these different modes that it shouldn't be in. What's your take?
My take
sounds like you don't mind cardio.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I'm very big on kind of every piece of fitness has a purpose. And again, when we look at our lives now, right, the reality is 9 times out of 10, aside from going to the gym, it's like I can order Uber Eats and I can, they're going to bring us room service and all this. So
right.
And I can order everything. It just shows up to my house and they install it. I never have to get up from my couch, right? But so I feel like there's a lot less necessity for things like cardio. But if we look at just being well-rounded and kind of living long and enjoying, like, I'm very big on fitness for the average person, as like the more well-rounded you can be, the more you're going to enjoy your life for longer, right? And that means, like, yes, the muscle building, again, gun to my head, I hate making choices because I think like everybody needs a little bit of everything in their fitness, right? So I hate making choices, and gun to my head, I would tell you to strength train before you did cardio. But at the same time, there's a lot of value in just going out for like a 10-minute run.
It's good for your mental health.
It's good for mental health. And it's also good for just kind of, it's just good. Like, if I can build that aerobic system, right? If my lungs are stronger and my heart is stronger from going out on those runs too, it's going to make me better when I go into the gym and I want to do as many push-ups as I can or do as many squats as I can. So I think all of the different pieces complement each other, and so we should have a little bit of cardio in our life.
Okay, but do you think that makes sense for all the other reasons, like for mental, for cognitive, to help you with your endurance? How about for fat loss? What do you think about cardio for fat loss?
See, that's where I think we go wrong, right?
Right.
Because I think what happens, I think the thinking is, again, it's based on the idea of do more work, right? So I'm just gonna run on the treadmill for like 3 hours.
Right.
And
wow. That's a long time.
No, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do know what you mean though, but
yeah, and I think it's based on that idea of do more work, but it's not. I mean, it falls apart in 2 areas. One is like, yes, maybe, it's like you cut your calories a whole ton and then you go, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you focus on cutting calories and you focus on doing cardio so that you can burn calories. And then you lose the weight, right? But along the way, you've also, because you haven't taken the time to strength train, you've also lost necessary muscle, which is, muscle that helps you kind of get through your day, right. muscle that helps you again with all those little deceleration factors. And you've lost like an ability to be explosive. And that in the long run, both in the short term and the long term, is going to cost you a little bit. And 2, it's going to hurt you in the long run because we need to be, one of the things we're fighting as we get older, in addition to that loss of explosiveness, is that loss of muscle, right? So we have to work hard to maintain that. So that's where I think some kind of interval training is a better some kind of interval training, like strength interval training, is a better approach to fat loss, because you can build muscle.
Strength interval not being hit.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be hit, because again, HIIT we can do properly twice a week.
Right. So what kind of strength interval would you talk? Like, give us an example.
So I think, and I'm kind of calling it strength interval training because it differs from like the way I strength train, where I'm going to lift heavy and take, time between my sets because I'm lifting heavy, right? I think if somebody has a pair of 25-pound dumbbells at home, right? We can basically work, so say 40 seconds on, 20 off, right? Or even 30 seconds on, 30 off, of critical motions, right? Like we would do, I might tell you to choose 3 exercises, choose like a reverse lunge,
right, a
dumbbell row, and maybe a push-up, and alternate those exercises 30 on, 30 off for, 5 or 6 sets, right? It's only like 15 to 20 minutes that way. So it's a workout that's pretty sustainable and you can do. But you're going to get, you get to build muscle, you get to move through more movement patterns than you're going to if you just do cardio. And again, I want you to, in the ideal world, I want your body to move in more ways than one.
Right. All planes of motion.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then what are some other fat loss myths that are myths?
It's interesting. I think one, especially for guys, I think is just the general idea of focusing on losing fat, right? Because again, we're talking about we want to talk about building muscle too, and that muscle is going to have more longevity for you
and help you burn fat.
Exactly, it's going to help you burn fat, and it's going to preserve your body. So I think that's one big issue I see. And another thing, and this is especially for guys, is that guys think like that fat loss is the key, you know. And what's interesting.
No, guys usually feel, not to interrupt you, but that guys kind of feel like they need to always like want to build their chest and like build muscle. Not so. I mean, I'm sure it's about losing fat, but I feel like guys just want to get bigger. You're a perfect example.
Well, I don't want to get bigger.
Well, yeah. I hope not. I mean, you could barely fit on this couch, but I mean, people they want big muscles, guys.
Yeah, that's true. It's probably more women, I feel like.
Yeah, women want to lose fat.
Yeah,
for sure, and they're scared of bulking, which I know is that's a myth right there. Women are not going to bulk at all.
Yeah.
But men more want them to just get bigger.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was having a conversation with somebody a couple weeks ago.
You have a lot of conversations.
I talk a lot. Yeah, I mean more than I act sometimes. But yeah, no, I was having a conversation with a really big YouTube guy, and that's what we were talking about. It's like
you're athletic Athlean-X. Yeah, I like him. Okay.
Yeah, but no, that's what we were talking about. It's like It's interesting actually, because the discussion we were having is the industry to guys does push the idea, and I think that's why I got caught up on it. But the industry to guys pushes the idea of fat loss, right? It's like, here's a 30-day program to lose weight, right? And both I and Athleen think, more guys want to build muscle, and more guys and kind of understand like the importance of that by now. But at the same time, I know why the industry, the health and fitness industry to men pushes the idea of fat loss, partly because it's the only promise they can adequately deliver on, right? Because you have all these, the industry tends to push like 30-day programs and stuff like that, and you're not going to build appreciable muscle in 30 days.
Right. You cannot.
But and building muscle is hard. It takes work, you know?
Especially as you age, which I want to get into soon. That's a topic we're going to talk about. But you know how hard it is to build muscle as you get older. Yeah. Because you lose so much as you get older.
Yeah, exactly. But it's possible, you know? It just it definitely takes like, I feel like the older you get, it takes like a more coordinated and careful approach. Like when you're 25, you can do anything.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I built muscle so easily. Now I'm working 10 times as hard, and I'm like, you know, I'm not getting any of the results that I used to get. It takes me like literally like 20 times as much. So yeah, the aging and building muscle for sure is a topic I want to get to, but just finish what you're going to say.
I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh yeah, but the industry basically pushes like these fat loss is the key, right? So I think people have moved past the idea. People kind of understand the importance of muscle, but you have this industry that's constantly bombarding you with like lose weight because it's an easier sell.
For like you being at Men's Health, right?
Yeah.
Is that the question? Is that the kind of questions or the people wanted, like, that's the most wanted or asked question, or your readership? What are they asking for the most? Is it because they want to lose fat, or is it because they want to build strength?
I think so. It's interesting. It's interesting because we have so much more data on them now, and we see kind of what people read, and what we have a lot. It's interesting because what's really cool about the Men's Health readership is that it definitely, the more I've kind of studied the data, the more it's like they're actually paying attention, right? And they're learning, because the stories that we get kind of the most traffic on are like the best 14 back exercises, right? which
is strength though, isn't that?
Yeah, it's strength. So I feel like guys now want to focus on building strength, or they understand that. But for back exercises to be up there too, they also understand that on a pretty nuanced level, because I feel like when you send somebody into it, it's like International Bench Press Monday is kind of like a very big gym joke.
It is. Well, you know what I like to hear, that I think the back is super important. I talked about that. Like I talked about that in like all of my books, because I think it's all like an illusion, right? If you have a really sculpted back with like wide shoulders and like a V taper, it makes everything look so much better, right?
Yeah.
And you look so much more fit. It used to be that six-pack abs, like how do I get a six-pack? How do I get a flat tummy? Are you seeing less of the questions about abs and now more on the back, or they both?
It's basically it's back, abs, and arms, right?
Oh, okay. So abs are still high up there.
Yeah, I feel like they're always going, because I feel like it's interesting what you said about back, because back is your key to all the other things, right?
Absolutely.
One of the things I get asked a lot is how to get like a really big chest, right? And
because you have a big chest.
Yeah, I think
it's bigger than mine.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to get at it.
Oh, you're so shy. I mean, you're just like, you have, you work out so much, your upper body. I mean, anyone can see you. Go on to by the way, everyone, go to what's your Instagram? Ebenezer.
It's my full name.
Yeah, Ebenezer Samuel. 23.
Yeah.
Go check him out on Instagram, because you'll see like he works out his chest a lot, and he also has got great exercises. But you'll see what I'm talking about. If you're listening to this podcast and not watching it, that's how you can see how I'm jabbing him, by just checking him out on Instagram. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
But anyway, that's one of the questions I get the most over like DMs and when I put out Q&As. And one of the secrets to building a big chest actually starts with your back, right? Because if all I do is chest exercises, it's just going to pull me forward and forward and forward, and the fibers here get tight, right? And that's kind of then you just have more of that kind of hunched over look, and it's bad for your shoulders, right?
Bad for your posture. Yep.
Yeah, but your back is like, I'm very big into any kind of row, like a dumbbell row or a machine row, and I think everybody should do at least twice a week, should be doing like 3 sets of rows. And it doesn't matter what it could be with dumbbells, it could be with like a gallon of water, or it can be in the gym and moving massive weights, right? But doing that kind of hits your mid-back muscles and the muscles between your shoulder blades, and that actually lets your chest, like if I walk around like this,
it opens up your chest.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I think whenever anybody tells me or asks me what do I have to do to get a big chest, they're like, what should I do on the bench press and this and that and the other thing. I'm like, you should start every week by not bench pressing, and your first day of every week should be training back, because it's the secret to everything. And it's the secret to, because if I train my abs, right, all they're gonna do again is like kind of drive me forward and into this position. And so I need all this good back muscle to kind of like have good posture, and also to let my six pack show, or else it's not going to work. Yeah. That's a great secret, or such a great tip. I love that. You have a lot of great like fitness tips. Like this is just 1, 2 you've given us so far. I want you to tell us more, but I want you to finish, and you can bullet point them. Like what are some other myths with fat loss for people to listen to, and they can know for 2022. But also I want for their resolutions, and then I want to get into aging and maintaining muscle, and then we can go into more fitness tips, and you can pepper those fitness tips in as we go. Okay. I'm working here. Yeah, you are working. I told you you're not going to sit here and loaf around and just do a bench press or a push-up. I'm going to ask you good questions. This is like a mind workout. Yeah. So I mean, I think I feel like we've covered a pretty good amount for fat loss. I want one more. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big issues is just that you can kind of cut calories. And that
okay, how about that one? I like that one.
Mhm.
What's your take on a calorie deficit? There's a big there's two schools of thought. Calories in versus calories out will help you with fat loss. That's one. Like having a calorie deficit. The other group says, no, that's bullshit. There's no such thing. It's all about like the quality of calories. What do you think about that?
It's weird because I feel kind of like I don't want to take a side on certain things, or I feel like soft because sometimes I feel like I'm coming down in the middle. But I think it's a combination of it's calorie deficit. It is about getting into a calorie deficit. I don't like the calories in, calories out conversation, because how you get there does matter, because calories in, calories out wind up getting reduced to, okay, so I can eat it's sad that I know this, but so I can eat 12 white chocolate Oreos today because they're 100 calories a pop, and that's my 1,200 calories, right? And that's like not. So I feel like what we have to do, and it's one of the things that really gets me about fat loss, is we have to find a way to kind of fuse the two schools, right?
One is for health reasons, and one is for purely fat loss or weight loss. Yeah. So are you kind of like in the middle because you're concerned, you don't want to say something because then people are gonna eat 12 Oreos, or because does it work? Just getting into a calorie deficit isn't gonna work anyway, because how's that Subway guy lose all that weight? Or when people are like, I'm gonna eat McDonald's, but I'm gonna only eat X amount of calories, and they lose weight.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying yes or no.
Yeah, I think, the other back end to, or one of the issues with fat loss too, is that people go on these diets, but then it's like, can you keep the weight off, and can you keep it sustainable?
Right, longevity reason. I mean, like long term.
Yeah, and I definitely try to take a holistic and kind of like well-rounded view to things. Like I don't. One of the issues with kind of the fat loss conversation is I always feel like it winds up being, okay, I got there and I'm done, right? But it's how you get there matters in your ability to sustain, and that's kind of, I think, that's my concern with just with oversimplifying to a calorie deficit, because how you get there, yes, you may lose the weight and it worked, right? But what have you done for yourself when you turn like 50, right? What have you done because you put a lot of saturated fat into your system?
Right. So it's not like it's probably the worst way of doing it, and it's not sustainable long term.
Yeah.
But so that's the problem, right? Because the second you start, you're becoming very unhealthy, and then you have a lot of you have a lot of visceral fat. Like, what is like?
Yeah. Well, you haven't really solved the problem long term. You have a lot of visceral fat. You have a lot of potential for like just heart issues, because you haven't and also your insulin levels are potentially all messed up too, and that's kind of a really, really underrated player in kind of like energy levels and your ability to build muscle. Like being able to kind of I feel like the underrated part in the fat loss conversation is insulin, right? Mm-hmm. Because if we can, like, insulin has a lot of performance enhancing capabilities. That's why I believe there are Olympic athletes who have been banned for using synthetic insulin, right? Because it has a lot of ability to help us build muscle. It has a lot of good qualities when you can manipulate it, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And when you have this conversation of calories in, calories out, and you don't recognize that there's a difference between simple sugars and complex carbs, and you don't recognize kind of the difference between taking in fat and taking in carbs, you potentially lose the ability to kind of control your insulin, mm-hmm. and to remain sensitive to insulin. We want to be able to spike our insulin when we want to with sugar, and then see that fall off, right? And we as a society tend to live with our insulin here because we eat so much sugar, because calories in, calories out, right?
So then the myth is, so you kind of believe that it is a calorie deficit.
Mm-hmm. But it's how you get there that really
So
matters.
it's how that you get there. So it is a myth that it's calories in, calories out, simplified, if you're not, because over time it doesn't work.
Yeah. It's also a myth. I think you're going to hear more about this in 2022, to be honest, the idea of metabolic flexibility.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about metabolic flexibility. Yeah.
I think you're going to hear a lot more. It's also
we talk about it a lot.
Yeah, it's also a myth that carbs are the enemy or fat is the enemy, right? We should be able to, we want our bodies to be able to use either as an energy source. So all these keto, paleo, where it's like oh, you're essentially going no carb or no fat, neither of those is effective, because again, you want to be able to use both carbs and fat,
right, when needed.
Yeah,
which is a great point. So what I find actually very interesting?
Mm-hmm.
The people I know who have like a really beautiful physique, they do old school shit. You're one of them, like they eat small meals all throughout the day, like 5 meals. Remember that whole like 5 meals a day?
Mm-hmm.
They eat a nice, some protein, some carbs, like they're veggie, and like they look great and they feel great. And then all of a sudden, like over time, all these the keto diet, the intermittent fasting diet, all these other things come into play. And people are so overwhelmed and so confused, like what to do. And now like people are not eating 5 little small meals. They're just eating in a 4-hour window or a 6-hour window. Is that a myth? Like you have to be eating a certain diet to see the results? Or let's talk about that.
It's interesting because it doesn't even matter what I say about it being a myth that you have to eat a certain diet, because like people have succeeded in losing weight by intermittent fasting, by paleo, by keto.
But is it because of how much they're eating and what they're eating? Does it matter the time they're eating? Does it matter spacing it out? Does it matter of like having a fasting for 12 hours, in your opinion? And what you see with Men's Health, what is your take?
So I think all those diets work because they're also diets, right? They've kind of given
exactly, but they'll work for a finite period of time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, they'll work for as long as you can stay in the frame. Like what I think the reason a lot of these diets work, quote unquote, is because they create a framework for people, right? They create structure. We're kind of a lot of times we don't tend to, it's like you go into a restaurant and it's like if you don't have a plan, you order like everything. I've been, or all right,
if you go grocery shopping and you don't know what you're buying, you're gonna buy like random everything. So you're saying like you need to have like it's always good to work within a structure, so you kind of keep some kind of like decorum, so to speak. Yeah,
exactly. And what it's interesting because all the people you brought up before, like bodybuilders, athletes, strength coaches, like they all eat within a structure. They like I eat everything, right? I try to not restrict. Like you need carbs. Like carbs kind of make your muscles look full because at some point they're kind of repackaged into glycogen, which creates that depth for your muscles. And you need healthy fats, right? Obviously protein is the backbone for everything. So I don't personally restrict anything for myself, right? But I'm also eating within a relatively rigid framework. Like I know I want to eat every 2.5 hours. Each meal is driven by like a natural protein. That's not like a shake. Like I try to have, eggs or chicken or fish. I want to have something green on the plate by it, and I want to have 3 to 4 ounces of carbs, right? And so that's kind of my restrictive formula.
And everything is portioned perfectly.
I try to, except every so often you slip.
But mostly, your portions are like on point. So again, it's not about what quote unquote diet you're following. It's about, again, what I said, and that's why if I was sitting where you were and you were interviewing me, I would say that it does make a difference about the amount you eat.
Yeah.
Not so much, and what you eat is what I would say. Not necessarily the time you're eating it and all that other stuff that goes with it.
Yeah, like all of the time you're eating it has like, I think bodybuilders do multiple meals.
Right. What I'm saying, the time, like if you don't eat until noon whatever I'm saying. That I think the more that those are also based on your body can't break down food. Like we overeat and therefore we're stuck with all this food in us because we're not digesting it because we're eating so much of it. So like having enough time to digest your food is really good for your system. Yeah, it's interesting because to bring the conversation full circle, that's like intermittent fasting is part of where you get the whole calories in, calories out idea. Because it's like, I'm going to take all my calories in like 2 meals spaced in whatever it is, 4 hours, right? Yeah, 4. I think 8's the beginning. Yes. I think 8's for beginners. Yeah. Or most people. Yeah, I think. I believe it. I believe it's 8. You're right. But that, and so that gets reduced to calories in. I think calories in, calories out was a very it's like a well-meaning idea, and it was basically the way people are telling you to eat is so complicated. So it's like, let's just reduce it to this. Yes. But then we get so reductive with it that it kind of it becomes counterproductive in some way. How about like how about this? What's the best way to eat if we want to build muscle and lose fat and just, feel better and look better? What would be, in your opinion? How I would say you want to have like 4 meals a day, right? And each meal you want to aim for 20 grams of protein, okay, and try to get this from a natural source. Make sure to get something green on your plate, right? And then get, 3 to 4 ounces of a carb. And if you do that, right, and then you want to ideally have some kind of water on the side. And if you do that, not some kind of water. I have this water. BLK water. BLK water. But BLK water is actually perfect, right? So I think if you do that, it checks a lot of boxes. And again, there's variety in there, right? Because your 20 grams of protein can be eggs or chicken or fish, right? And your green vegetable can be something different every time. You're checking a lot of boxes in terms of getting fiber in your system, which is really good. You're checking a lot of boxes with the protein, which your body needs. We're not eating enough fiber though, as a society, and how do we? I mean, we should up that for sure. Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think we've come a long way in the fiber conversation. And it's funny because I love white rice. Which is I can't. I know I've seen you've had it like 5 times since we've been here. I mean, to be fair, I don't know if they have brown. They probably have brown rice. I probably could ask for it. I've kind of enjoyed just getting away from brown rice. Yeah. But I think. By the way, white rice is supposed to be better than brown rice. Did you know that? I haven't heard this. Oh, you should Google it. You should do a story on it. I heard that there's a whole myth about brown rice versus white rice. I don't remember what the myth exactly is. I can Google it right now and tell you. But I had someone on here recently who told me about this, and it's pretty amazing, actually. I'm gonna Google it. White rice versus brown rice. I was a brown rice person too. I have heard the thing that brown rice is overrated compared to white rice. Like, it's not markedly better. It's not marketably better. It's not. Yeah, white rice tastes so much better too. I'm also Asian, so I'm kind of like. I know. Well, I was going to say. Yeah. I mean, you're naturally going to probably live to 177 because of just all the rice you're eating. But hold on, brown rice versus white rice. Okay, if you look at the breakdown, it's actually the fiber content in brown rice is like minusculely higher, but. Yeah, it's basically a little bit higher, like between 1 gram and 2 grams more fiber. And then I'm not finding it properly right now. I'm gonna look it up and then get back to you on that. But from what I heard, it's not that much different. White rice is, see, again, there's another, I think what happens is something gets traction and then everyone just follows follows that. And this could be happening right now with I heard something about white rice and now I'm following that whole thing. So don't take my word for it. I think I could have sworn I heard someone mention that to me, and they were like they were a leading nutritionist. So I'll try to find that information.
But that's again why I'm big into like, it's like if you kind of loosely follow, if everybody loosely followed what I'm saying, right? Mm-hmm. They're covered. But choose your own carb. Don't let the internet choose it for you, right? Yeah. Choose your own mixed vegetable.
Like a sweet potato versus a white potato.
It's like
a russet potato.
Yeah, it's like at a high level, if you're like planning to try out for like, or
like Olympics, a competition or something. Exactly.
Yeah, but then that matters.
Right. But, so for the average person who wants to like look a little bit more lean and healthy and fit, have white rice or brown rice. It's not going to make, it's so nominally different. It doesn't make a difference. Okay, let's talk about aging and muscle, like how do we do this and do it well? Because we do break down more muscle as we age. So how do we...
So and that's interesting because the older we get, the more precise we have to get with all this stuff. Like the healthier we have to eat, and I mean, so isn't building muscle when we're older? Like I believe after 40, especially for men, sarcopenia becomes like a major issue. I think the two things we want to do, or there are three things we want to do. First off, and this is kind of one of those things we're told by kind of modern fitness, right? Is you've got to do the kind of big exercises, right? You have to lift heavy, okay? And older people should definitely try to lift heavy. I think every human on the planet should work up to being able to deadlift like their body weight plus at least 50 pounds. And that's not unattainable, right? And you have to take your time to work up there. So I think older people shouldn't be afraid to lift heavy. They should do that at least twice a week. Right?
Well, you say heavy though, right? Like the fear is that, especially as you get older, like you're gonna pull your back out, or you're gonna injure yourself for like injury prevention.
Yeah.
So you're saying that shouldn't be something that we focus on?
Yeah, I think two things. One, I think for a lot of...
Or do challenging stuff, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. It's mainly like challenge yourself, like working up to that heavy part, working up to say your body weight plus 50 pounds on a deadlift. You might want a trainer for that, right? You want somebody around who can kind of help you master your form, or you want to like watch like a clinic I'll give on the deadlift online with you in like 3 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. I just think don't be afraid of heavier weights, right? And the key is the rep scheme, right? Is like it's like you learn with lighter weights how to kind of get your form down, but then you've got like at some point you want to challenge yourself, right? And you're going to keep the reps low. You're going to do like 1 or 2 reps, and that's fine. I think a lot of people get caught up in, again, more work, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, I'm going to do sets of like 12 and 15 reps. I'm going to tone, except toning really doesn't, toning doesn't really exist, right? And it's like, again,
don't talk about that. I think people don't really, you and I may think that, but most people don't realize that. So why don't you talk about that? This whole toning myth. That's a myth.
Yeah, I honestly I barely even know what the word means, right? It's funny because when you read
women's magazines.
Do women's magazines say it? I don't read.
That's all they say is like, tone your, upper body, toning your arms. The word tone or toning is like synonymous with, abs. You know what I mean? Like it's a very common word.
It's interesting because we literally, I'm actually trying to think back to the last time I used it in men's health. I've been in men's health for 4.5 years now, and the answer is never. Like, yeah,
because women use the word toning. I don't think men ever use the word toning.
Yeah, I think it's almost like I feel like it got caught up in societal kind of because of that whole we can't say build muscle to women, right? And we can't, and bulking freaks them out, right? So here we're gonna get them lifting weights because it's gonna tone them, whatever. I honestly don't know what the word means.
It means like not like kind of like, it's like, again, the opposite of flabby would be toned, I guess. I don't know. These are all like, this is exactly my point, and that's why I wanted to talk to you and have you on, is because I think so much of everything is all marketing and branding, and it's not necessarily accurate or true. It's just what we've like been conditioned to think, because we see it and hear about it all the time, and especially with social media, and every ding dong now on social media is a fitness expert, which is a problem. Because most people are getting paid for everything that they're doing, or they have no clue what they're doing. So either option's terrible. So having someone who's a trusted resource like you, who actually takes it super seriously and like learns about this constantly, is, I think, a really important thing to talk about, because you get like analysis paralysis and overwhelmed at all the different information that's out there.
And I think that is what it, you're right. It is so much kind of like marketing and spin, and it gets confusing for people. That's why
I'm confused, and that's what I do for a living practically. You know what I mean? I don't even know anymore. I'm like I don't know, maybe I'm like the brown rice, white rice thing. I'm even confused, because I'm like, okay, well, I mean, this trusted resource told me, and then I look and now I can't find it. But then I'm sure if I don't have the time right this second, but if you dig around long enough for anything, you can back up that resource, right?
Exactly. Because the internet is a treasure trove of confirmation bias, which is really cool.
Exactly.
It's toning is, but I think toning is like the woman way, and don't take that the wrong way, but it's kind of
rude. Get off my podcast. I'm just joking.
It's I mean, it sounds like it's in all the women's magazines. So it's basically like, because I feel like guys try to like cut, rip, shred. It's basically the equivalent to that. But
it is cut, rip. Okay, so for guys, it's cut, rip, shred, build. Women, it's tone.
What else?
Chisel, maybe.
It's mostly just tone, isn't it?
Tone. Tone or burn. Burn's a big one. Like burn fat. Tone your midsection.
So they're like, it's like, and the guy terms, if you will, are just edgier versions. But
but the men's magazines do have way better workouts that are more effective. I will say that. That's why I have you here today, because the truth of the matter is, I do know enough to know that women are kind of shown and taught to be lifting lightweight, very lightweight, and they actually, or no weight, and they believe that's actually going to get them to their goal. When the truth of the matter is, you do need to lift heavy and heavier and challenge yourself, because that's how you can talk about this more. It's like that's how you get results and, cause, what do you call it in your body? You cause
adaptation.
What do you call it? Adaptation. I was going to say stress in your body, which then builds and helps you with firming. Firm's another word.
Really?
Firm, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's like firm, like the back of your arm.
Yeah,
I think I've seen that one.
Yeah,
I've seen that
firm's a big one too.
No, and that's the interesting. So I do not, I mean, like subtly, because goals are different, right? That's the only difference it's because of different goals that sometimes I see workouts for men and women different. But I think everybody, from whether male or female, needs to lift heavy. And get strong.
How do you lift heavy and build muscle without? Because this is one thing I do. I'm curious what you say. I think I know what you're going to say. Because a lot of times, if you have too much excess fat on your body, then the muscle is not showing. So then you have like fat over your muscles, and then you can look a little bit more zuftig or bulky. How do we take care of that problem?
It's interesting. So one, it's really, really hard to build muscle. Like I love it when people are like, oh, I build muscle really quickly, so I don't want to, I'm worried about what's going to happen to muscle. It's like if you can put on, right, if you can put on more than 5 pounds of muscle in a year,
That's a big
to,
deal.
You need to start selling your game plan to everybody.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think the key thing is remembering that one, it's really, really hard to put on muscle. So what you want to do, because I guess the goal is to, like, you're worried that there's too much fat that people see, so they can't they can't see your muscle.
Well, no, like, okay, I'm going to give you an example. What I'm saying is, like, if you are doing 1,000 crunches, which is a whole other thing, like, that's another myth, that you can actually build a six pack by doing 1,000 crunches. I'm here to tell you, I don't even need Eb to tell me this.
Yeah.
That's a myth, because abs are built in the kitchen. Most of this is done in the kitchen. Working out can get you so far, but if you're not eating properly and in terms of, like, clean, then you're never going to build a six pack ever. But my point is, if you're eating a bunch of junk and then you're doing a ton of ab workouts, you'll have, like, you may build a strong core, but you'll have, like, fat layer over it.
Yeah. And that's what like what you're better off spending your time doing in the gym is kind of is hitting your major muscle groups, right? Because when you do that too, you're going to attack you're going to wind up if you're doing them with proper form, and as you kind of master more execution, you're going to wind up attacking your abs anyway without having to do direct ab exercises.
So you don't even believe in doing anything beyond major muscle groups, and then that will just activate your abs and core, basically.
When you do them correctly, yeah. Like, and again, like, I love training abs, right? But I also spend like 2 hours to sometimes more in the gym, right?
Well, then most people don't have that time, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if you don't have time and you're kind of working off, if you're like, for people who can't spend 2 hours in the gym, it's like, I think you want to like, lifting heavy, I think in the 8 to 10 rep range at max, right? But I would think of, if you're going to do 4 exercises, right? Your first one, go ahead and pick up something heavy and challenge yourself, right? And do like 3 sets of, say, 3 to 5, which is low. But if you're going to a gym, like challenge yourself. If you're not comfortable picking up free weights or you're afraid to get injured, do it on the machine, right? Because most of the gyms we're going to are going to have, like...
What if outside... Let's talk about outside the gym. People don't have a gym membership, especially now with COVID and people canceled their memberships.
Yeah.
The best movements to do.
I think you break it down into 4. There are 4 boxes you want to hit every week, right? You want to squat, okay? Either squat or lunge, right?
Not both.
I think you can choose. They're both kind of similar. Some people don't squat really well, and that's why I say the lunge for those people. Some people aren't really comfortable kind of stepping back, and they lose their balance on the lunge, and that's why the squat is better for them.
Okay.
You want to do an exercise called the Romanian deadlift, and that's an exercise you can do. You can go pretty heavy on once you learn it. And it's super personal because you're only going down as low as you can, right? And
this is a fundamental one, do you think? The Romanian deadlift?
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying a squat or a lunge, both, whatever.
Yeah.
The Romanian deadlift, because you can go as low as you can.
Yeah,
okay.
And it teaches the Romanian deadlift is the most fundamental motion in like human life, right? Because it's basically teaching you how to properly bend over, which sounds really bad now that I say it like that. But
we know what you mean.
Yeah, but it's teaching you how to, and that's something like we forget over time, and then we start to use our back for it. But what we're supposed to do is use our hamstrings and our butt for it more.
Right.
So there's that, and then you need to do some kind of row, just anything whether it's like a cable or a resistance band.
Right, for your back, we talked about that. Yeah.
Anything where you pull back here. Yeah. And then you just want to, the other complement to pulling back this way is you want to push. So you just want to have some kind of push up in your game too.
And push up. Okay. So you said we can ixnay on the planks.
Yeah.
And the sit-ups.
Yeah, those are, again, if you're doing these other things and you're doing them properly, like if you take the time to learn a push-up or to master the push-up happens from a plank anyway. So it's like you're covered.
Right.
Yeah.
And then would you say, what's the difference between split, like some people say the best thing to do is do a workout that you do one body part a day, or do upper or lower, or do full body? What's the most effective?
It depends on how much time you have. If you're planning to work out 3 days a week, right? Then it's better to do full body workouts, right? Because you're going to be taking a day or two in between.
If you're doing 4 days a week.
If you're doing 4 days a week, upper lower is a better way to do it.
And then 5 days a week you would do body part?
No, I probably wouldn't. I don't think even bodybuilders don't really just do a single body part in a day. I think the profession has moved away from that, because we can hit your muscles can recover more, or your muscles can be you can train body parts more than once a week. They don't need 6 days to recover.
Okay, but when you say like, oh, Jen, we're going to go work out, we're doing bis and tris, biceps and triceps. So that's 2 body parts, right?
Yeah.
So are you training, like when do people train 2 body parts a day? Like bis and tris one day, legs another day, back and chest or whatever, back, chest, whatever. Yeah,
I mean, I guess some people think of it that way, but
it's not necessary.
And a lot of people are thinking of it. So like when I say chest and tris, right? Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm training all the muscles that push. You know, when we say back and bis, we're training all the muscles that pull. So and especially if it's more important. Again, for your longevity, it's more important. Like, you don't need big biceps, right? But you need the ability to pull. You know, so it's a lot easier.
Like functional training.
Exactly. Yeah, which I try to avoid that buzzword, but that's basically what it is.
You don't like that word. How come?
I just generally try to avoid as many buzzwords as possible, because I feel like they don't really, you know. I want to like help people understand what those buzzwords
what does it mean? So
functional training is literally training functions.
Yeah.
Right?
Or for everyday life, right?
Yeah, it's basically kind of training. Yeah, in theory, it's training for everyday life, and then CrossFit took that and made that like a nutty term in its own way. So that's why I try to avoid it, because I try to, you know. But
yeah, I understand that. That makes sense. I don't like that word either.
Yeah.
But people know it now. I think it's very common. And how important is recovery, and how much should we recover?
So recovery is huge, right? Because recovery is when you're going in recovery is when I hit the sack at the end of the night. That's when my body, assuming I get proper sleep, that's when my body can grow. That's when it's repairing most of that's when it's repairing kind of most of the muscle damage I created in the gym. So that's when it's the most critical.
We're both taking like a water break at the same time.
But water it's interesting, because nutrition, to me, I view recovery as anything that's happening when I'm not in the gym, right? And that includes like my nutrition, right? Which is kind of the water I'm taking in. I make sure to take in a lot of water.
How do you like this?
I love it. I mean, it's interesting because the color throws you off. You don't think it's water, right?
Right. He's drinking the BLK water that I sent him. That I think it's great because I like it because of the fulvic in it.
Yeah.
And the fulvic is naturally occurring antioxidant, so it's good for recovery. That's why it's good for fitness people who do fitness stuff, because it's good for the recovery and the detoxification. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, I think so we're only gonna, if you think about it, you're only like, I train 2 hours in a day, right? And that's a long time, right? That means there are 22 hours when I'm not training, right? And you know, somebody else, a normal person might train like a half hour, 45 minutes a day. That means there's 23 hours where they're not training. So all of that is time that they need, that they can recover from their workouts, right? And if we go into our next workout and if you go through a hard 45-minute workout or a hard 2-hour workout, or you know, a 30-minute Peloton ride, and then the next day, and you haven't kind of taken the time to recover your body, and then the next day you go back to that Peloton ride, or like your 30-minute workout or your 2-hour workout, and you're kind of dealing, and you haven't let your ligaments and tendons and muscles just get like recover and heal and rebuild, one, you're not going to grow, so you're not going to get the gains you want out of it. But two, you go into that next workout diminished, right? And then each day of kind of poor recovery, you starting to stack days of, when you start to stack days of poor recovery, then you start to, that's when people get injured. So that's why recovery is your critical way of avoiding injury. But then it's also key because it's your critical way of kind of undoing life, right? Because life puts us, so right now you and me are sitting, and I'm realizing this, I don't know how long we've been talking for, but our hip flexors are like in this awful position right now. Like we really should stand up and stretch. Well, normally I would be doing this on a treadmill in my house, my studio. However, we're of course in Miami today. Okay. And with COVID, I haven't been able to do that. But I mean, I agree with you. I do not like to sit for this long. It's sedentary. Like being sedentary is not a natural thing for me. Yeah. And I hope that most people. I think it's habitual now. Like once you start moving a lot, it's like an object in motion stays in motion, which is really good for you. Yeah. Right? Because like both of us are not used to it, and we're like uncomfortable by sitting here. Yeah, especially now that I thought about it. Right. But I mean, for the average person, it's like you spend so much time in this seated position, so your hip flexors get tight, and then you spend so much time like hunched over something, whether it's like a laptop or your phone or your steering wheel or whatever. And so recovery and kind of incorporating recovery tactics into our lives, right? Undoes that, because we wind up in this awful position that like can easily like is closing down all this joint space in my shoulder, tightening my chest, doesn't look good posturally either. And the fix for that is kind of smart. I mean, one, it's training, but two, it's kind of smart implementation of kind of recovery tactics, right? So I think recovery is, because again, it's not just recovery from your workout, it's recovery from life. And you're in the gym an hour, maybe 2, but life is wrecking you for the other 10 hours. So what do you do? The desk job. I think to me, it's active recovery. Yeah, I'm very big on, I think kind of the massage guns, and I mean there are a lot of tools out there. Oh, like the Hypervolt, like Hyperices. Yeah, I love Hyperices stuff. To be honest, I'm very big on the like the Normatec boot. Like I love that Normatec. It's expensive though for most people. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. Which, by the way, Normatec is like these like they're like boots, these big boots for people who don't know, and it's great for like lactic acid buildup. You wear them for like 40 minutes, and it's really great. But like any kind of you can even take a roller even and just roll out just to help with. Yeah. Well, I think even like I think like foam rolling is tricky, right? Because there are certain ways to do it, and I feel like sometimes people don't always want to foam roll or have the interest in foam rolling. I hate it, but I mean, I shouldn't say I hate it. I just don't love doing it because it's I'm just always forget or whatever else. But I mean, you're the expert though. I mean, you don't think it's a good way to loosen up your muscles for mobility purposes and everything else like that? I think it's fine. It just wouldn't be my first choice, right? So what's your first choice for mobility? My first choice is just kind of like is active recovery. Like I think by doing what? Like give me an example. I think it's literally you can, and I think you can do this like anytime throughout your day, and it doesn't even have to be like a workout, right? It can easily just be like 2 minutes, right? When you just stand up, and I would do something called the Spider-Man lunge to thoracic rotation, which I think I've made you do a bunch of times. Probably, yeah. The Spider-Man, what's it called? The Spider-Man lunge? Yeah, the Spider-Man lunge, right. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking. You have all these names. We all have different names for stuff, but that's a great one. Yeah. But tell people how to do it, which is... Yeah, so basically all you do is you get into a push-up position. Can you do it right now? So I can see. I can do it on a table. That'd be weird. No. I mean, you could. Do you have room? If we move the table, I do. I mean, I don't mind moving the table. Should we move the table? Yeah. Do you mind helping me move the table so I can just... And you're saying this is one of the best movements for active recovery? If there's one thing you do like every day, that checks a lot of boxes and helps to loosen all the stuff that gets tight.
Yep. Okay. This is it?
This is it, yeah. Where are we putting this table?
Just put it right there for now.
Are we filming this?
Yep.
This is in jeans, so I wonder how it's gonna.
It's okay.
Okay.
Do it.
Okay.
Do it.
Okay. So all you do
Uh-huh.
is get into push-up position without knocking the camera down.
Okay.
And my abs are nice and tight, glutes are nice and tight.
Uh-huh.
And then all we do is move our right foot as close to our right hand as possible, and try to keep our chin perpendicular to the ground as we can, and then live in this position and take like 2 deep breaths and try to like sink into this hip, because this opens up this entire
Hip.
here, and then also this back hip is getting a really, really nice stretch. And then from this position, all we do is reach our hands to the sky, and then I get that good shoulder blade squeeze on the back, and at the same time I'm opening up my chest, which has gotten tight from all that tightening. And then come back and do it on the other side.
And how many should we do of these?
I would just alternate sides for like 2 minutes. I don't
2 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Should we do that every day?
Yeah.
Maybe we should we should wake up and do that. Or should we do it before we go to bed?
It's interesting. You could definitely wake up and do it before you wake up, or when you wake up. It'd be weird to do it before you wake up.
While we're sleeping, yeah. Yep.
You could definitely do it when you wake up. I think it's great too. Like if you're in an office, or if you have like a lunch break or something like that, it's great to do it at those times too, because that's when like our hips are like, it's like you've been sitting for like
warm.
4
Yeah,
hours.
exactly. They're tight.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great. There's a lot of research now just on like what's happening when we're tight here is kind of like our fascia is setting in to this pattern, right? And constantly reinforcing to your fascia, which is kind of this whole living, breathing like wrapper on our muscles. Constantly reinforcing that hey, we're not in a set position is beneficial, right? So it's like I do it like whenever I'm in the office, which happens a lot less these days. Whenever I'm in the office and I need like kind of just like, I'll just do it in the office. It's interesting too, because I feel like now the way the world is like people are a little bit more accepting of me doing weird stuff at the office.
Now? Why now? They should have always been accepting of you, since it's what you do for a living.
That's true. Yeah.
I'll talk to the boss. Ed, be more accepting of Ed. Just kidding.
Yeah, no, they like me now. But yeah, I think if you do that one, again, it's super simple. It just hits a lot of boxes. It loosens up a lot. It loosens up kind of a lot of the areas that are tight. And it's easy. It's easy to remember. All you're thinking is get your foot by your hand and then reach for the ceiling.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's just I want to go back to the goal setting, because we were talking about that, and then we kind of went into fat loss myths. But we started off really well telling people a great way to kind of goal set is to have something that they're working towards, like a race, or not a race, or like a Spartan, or a local thing.
I had more on that too.
I know, that's why I want to kind of circle it back and finish with this, because coming into a new year, or in a new year, I really want people and anybody like myself even to have like really good practical things that they can actually put down, where they can stick to whatever goals that they have and reach them, because it's no point of setting something. The whole point of setting something is so that you can actually reach those goals, not to set them and then just kind of like not even have a plan. So what are some really other good ways to do that? Okay.
Yeah, so it was interesting, because where I had been, we went down like a very long rabbit hole, but it was a good rabbit hole, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or, a bunch of rabbit holes.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Welcome to the podcast.
I think, it's interesting, because so what works about the Spartan races and Tough Mudders and stuff like that is they create this tangible, concrete goal. But not everybody wants to like put themselves out there and go do a race or whatever. But I think the key is what you want to do is create like, and this is where people fall when they're coming up with their goals for the start of the year. They're like, I want to lose weight, right? Or I want to get stronger. Or I want to build muscle. I want to, I think what you have to do is you take that general goal, right? Because that general goal is kind of really what you want, but you've got to put something tangible to it, right? So the thing people have to do, and I think too, if you go back, like everybody's heard the phrase like invest in yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like you've got to, the more investment you put into creating your goal, right? Mm-hmm. Which sounds simple, but the more that, and this is also how you stick to it though too, the more investment you put into kind of creating your goal, the more the more time you put into it. Like if you're just like, I want to lose weight, that's my thing for 2022, so I'm gonna go get a gym membership and that's gonna keep me accountable. That's not enough, right? But I think what you want to do is say, okay, I want to lose weight. You want to figure out how many pounds, like the more concrete you can make it, the better. So I think what people have to do is take 2 steps on top of that initial goal. Come up with that initial kind of like more,
give me an example.
Less form-fitting goal. Like let's say, I have a lot of clients come to me and they're like, I want to build muscle, right? And so I actually flip around and I'm like, I'm like, well, who do you, and it sounds superficial, right? But it's not. It's helping to kind of shape what we're going to do, right? And this is actually the season why I do it with a lot of them. It's, okay, so you want to build more muscle. Who do you want to look like, right? Or how do you want to perform? Okay. So I think it's good. Like we have all these kind of celebrities.
So be more specific.
Yeah. There's a third step to that too, right? Okay. So like it's like for me, like I want to look like Captain America. I actually had a guy earlier this year who wanted to look like Captain America. And so it was like, okay, so now you've made it initially tangible, right? You've chosen somebody to look like. It doesn't have to be look like either. It could also be like perform like I want to dunk a basketball.
I want to look like Giselle. Now what do I do?
But so then let's like outline that more, like, and it sounds silly and it sounds
so
like
I know what you mean. You're not trying to sound vain or superficial, but what you're trying to do is really kind of be as specific as possible, and then on top of that have somebody that you can use as a benchmark or an example, so that you can pull to or you can like refer to.
Yeah, exactly. And then you take it one more level and it's okay. So my guy who wanted to look like Captain America, right? It's like, okay, so we need to work on your chest. We need to work on your chest, and we need to work on your abs, and we need to work on, your legs, right? And so off of that, then we chose a certain amount of exercise. We chose certain exercises, and it's like, we're going to get your bench press here, right? We're going to get your ability to do hanging leg lifts to this amount.
But what if it's not physically about how you look? What if it's like, I really want to have more energy? So who do you don't have that type of specificity. So how do you do that?
But you do, like, because like, let's say yeah, I mean, in general, yes, you want more energy, but I think part of the responsibility of having that goal of more energy, if you want it to go anywhere, is to put something tangible to it, right? So that, like,
okay, where would I put where would the tangibility be with that?
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking through a little bit, because I want more energy. It might be okay, so I want to be able to run like a half a mile in the morning and a half a mile at night and feel good, right? But I think you want to have it's the responsibility, if you have that goal, it's your responsibility to make it tangible, and that's what's gonna allow you to stick to it, right? And that's also what's going to allow you to feel like you're winning throughout the year, because if we took that more energy, and let's say maybe that more energy, I want more energy translates to I want to be able to do 20 burpees at the end of the day, which probably doesn't sound like much fun.
How about for accountability?
Well, so that keeps you, I mean, for accountability, I think once you go through the trouble, so I just literally spun that 20 burpees at the end of the day thing, and it's kind of silly, right? So I'm probably not going to take it very seriously, right? But that's where I think it's like you've kind of invested in yourself and taken the time to do something, right? Taking the time to like really flesh out the goal, whether that's with a trainer, with yourself, or whatever. And because of that, you'll stick to it because you owe it to yourself, because you took the time to not just like come up with something that was like 20 minutes on December 31st, but you took the time to kind of research and work on something.
Oh, I like that. Okay. And the accountability, I think accountability is super important. So
yeah,
what are some great ways to work out? Is it, do you think working out with friends are good? Like, what's the other ways to keep your goals?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think like if you kind of create so I'm big on two things. One, I think if you can work out with a group, that's really awesome, because they're going to help you stick to it, or find a training partner. One of the hard parts of finding a training partner is you need somebody who's going to push you and not drag you down. I trained for a couple of years. Probably like 6 years ago, I was training with like a guy, and he would always show up late to the gym, and I would have to like call him. So it's like you have to find like the right person. If you can find the right person, right, I think that's good. If you can afford a trainer, they keep you accountable and they do the work for you. One of the cool projects I've been part of over the last like 9 months is I work with a team called FlexIt. I'm the head of training innovation there, and that's an app. And a platform that allows for virtual training, which is a super easy way that anybody can get.
Yeah, I did FlexIt with you. I love that because you can like train with really top quality people, and you could like at your house basically. And it's actually really good also for proper form and technique, and to make sure you're doing things right. Yeah. That's what I like about those types of things too. Like, I don't think a trainer anymore is just for people who are super wealthy. I think like people who want to get better in anything have coaches. Yeah. And you don't have to be doing it all the time. Yeah. Right? It could just be like once in a while to make sure that you're on point.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think you and me did like once a week or something like that for a little bit. Or...
We did. And then I got busy, my bad. But I did really love the platform.
Yeah, and I think that's like a really easy, and you're right. There are so many ways that you can work with a trainer. I think FlexIt is a great option, but then there are other ways. It's like I think now too. Like even if I draw up a program. I have a couple clients where all I do is I draw up a program. I give it to them. They send me a couple of videos a week. Right. And it's like check-ins, right? But I think when you've kind of spent, it's like anything. It's like if you spend $600 on a new PlayStation 5, are you gonna leave it sit there? Or are you gonna use it, right? So if you spend like if you can, right? If you can spend $500 on a workout program, you're probably going to stick to it a little bit more. So I think the accountability is like literally, I think there are ways you can, like working with a partner is great. Working with a trainer is great. I think people too, I think when you set that tangible goal, I do believe like when you make it very, very tangible, I want to bench press 225. Mm-hmm. I want to,
it's more tangible, the better.
Yeah. I think that's what will get people, to stick to it. I also think setting very, very, small goals, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't bite off more than you can chew, like, I think it's about I call it stacking days, right? And I think it's literally, so I did this with one client in Virginia, and it was actually fun because like I saw like suddenly like she got into it, right? So I'm like, if you have no interest in fitness at all, my thing is 7 minutes, right? If you can start with 7 minutes once a day. And I did this with another guy too in the Bronx, and we started with like 1 7-minute workout like once a day, and then it was like 2 of them because it's 7 minutes, so it's not very long.
Right. 2 a day or just, okay, 2 7 minutes.
Yeah, so that's 14 whopping minutes out of 24 hours, you know? But over time, like he was able to, it was like, oh, I could fit in more 7-minute workouts because they're not long.
Totally.
And he wound up losing, I think he lost like 60 pounds.
Amazing.
So yeah. And it was.
What's it called? Stacking.
Yeah.
How's that stack? You stack these 7 minutes.
Well, the goal is to like habits and hustle. I thought about this.
Yeah.
But the goal is to like form a habit, right? Because, So that's like, it's like 7 minutes once a day. Okay. But it's like the first day you do it, right? And then you would check in with me, right? And it's like, okay, you did your workout. Now we have to get 2 days, right? Mm-hmm. So now you do the workout again. Now we have to get 3 days. So then you did it. And then one, it's like the 7 minute thing started because it was like, okay, I can show these people that they'll be more active and like have more fun,
mm-hmm.
you know? And then all of a sudden they like the energy. So they want the lady in Virginia wanted like more work. All of a sudden she was doing like hour-long rowing workouts, and I was like, I didn't tell you to do that, but sure, you know.
Exactly, just to get the hardest parts at the start. So are you saying 7 minutes day 1, day 2 7 minutes, day 3 7 minutes? Is that what you're saying?
No, keep going. So 7 minutes day 1, 7 minutes day 2, 7 minutes day 3. There's gonna come a point where you're gonna want to do more.
Oh, okay. So you're not saying double it and then triple it. You're saying constantly just do the 7 minutes a day. There's an app, by the way, for 7 minute workouts. I don't know if you know that. It's a very big thing. Mm-hmm. I had an app, by the way, for 5 minute workouts, and then the 7 minute, that was, a long time ago. And so you're saying, I totally believe in this. That's why I did the 5 minute hot 5, was because once someone starts, that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
And once they get started, then they're good as gold, more or less. And the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with it. So you're saying you did the 7 minutes and then second day 7 until they get on a roll. Yeah,
exactly. And all you're doing is you're kind of like, you're mandating for yourself that you're going to have activity in every single day, mm-hmm. right? That's where it starts, right? But then, and then because you're creating this mindset, right, of having a mandate for activity and working out every single day. And then you just stack that because it's like 1 day, 2 day. Oh, wow, I've done 7 days of 7 minutes. I can do more than this.
Absolutely.
And then I've done 14 days, and then I've done 30
It's confidence
days.
Building too, that you can do it.
Yeah.
No, I love this. This is great. So I don't know how long that was, but thank you for coming on the podcast. We can do another one like this. I don't know how long that was, but
it's mostly your fault.
It is always my fault. Everyone, you should, by the way, besides, checking out Men's Health, and Eb has obviously workouts in there and articles, and he writes for them, he runs it. But Eb, check out Eb's, like I said earlier, his IG. He does great workouts. Tell them again what your IG is.
It's my full name, so Ebenezer Samuel 23.
Do you want to spell Ebenezer for people, just in case? I mean,
EBENEZER SAMUEL 23. That's really long. Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah. That's why I call you Eb. Yeah. No, awesome. Thank you. This is a great beginning. You'll come on again, I'm sure. This is a great beginning for people to start their 2022 off on the right foot, so to speak. Excuse the pun. So thank you for coming on.
Habits and hustle, time to get it rolling. Stay up on the grind, don't stop, keep it going. Habits and hustle, from nothing into something. All out, hosted by Jennifer Cohen. Visionaries, tune in, you can get to know them. Be inspired, this is your moment. Excuses, we ain't having that. The Habits and Hustle podcast, powered by Habit Nest.